an exciting time. Good morning, Steve.
Hey, Jim, John, how are you guys today?
Good. Let's start with 4- and 5-year contracts. We haven't seen that from you in free agency. Why was this the right time to start making some of those kind of moves?
Well, number one, we need players. The most obvious. We had some expiring contracts, some players that we weren't going to bring back, open roster spots, and we look at free agency every year. And in the first 3 seasons as a general manager, I haven't opted to go on any longer term contracts. We were, in a phase of acquiring draft picks and kind of taking a patient approach here, allowing the younger guys, the draft picks, to develop a little bit. Well, at this stage, with roster spots available, players in the market that we thought are at a reasonable age that we can give them some term to, it was appropriate. We are, every year you're trying to improve your team a little bit, and that was the objective, to improve our roster. And in some cases, some of the players, it was good, in order to get them, was going to be to give them some term on the contract.
When you add players, obviously you're adding talent, but you also had an opportunity to add experience. You've got 3 of the 5 have experience playing in the Stanley Cup Finals. 2 had playoff series that they won this past spring. How important is it not just to add talent, but to add that experience and the expectation of getting to the playoffs and getting to the Stanley Cup Final?
Well, I think having players that have been around, that have been in good programs, that have been on successful playoff teams, they learn a lot through their career on kind of how to be professional, what it takes to get ready night in, night out, to perform at a high level, and the commitment and maybe sacrifice, I guess, that you make to be a part of a good team. I think that's beneficial. And then just with so many young players on our team, I mentioned the obvious ones, and maybe Seider and Philip Hronek on the blue line. I think it's important that they have stable, reliable partners to play with that help them develop as players, that make the game a little bit easier for them, and their confidence grows, and they gain a little bit of wisdom from the veteran guys who've been around and kind of know how to do it. So I think all winning teams have a culture or an atmosphere, and the players have the right attitude. So I think part of we're trying to bring in good players, regardless of where they come from. But some of the guys that have been around and been on winning teams, they learn a lot along the way, and I think they can impart that onto our guys.
Steve, we're all aware of the significance of the winged wheel, but it's been more than a few years since you guys have been in the playoffs. Are you feeling a different kind of response when you talk to free agents? Because we heard from some of these guys, and they said, when Yzerman calls, you take notice. Are you guys becoming more of a destination? What do players say to you when you approach them?
Well, I think predominantly talking with all the free agents this year, they've done their homework a little bit. They see kind of where they're going to fit. They ask these questions, but they kind of look at the roster and see where they fit in. One thing, I think playing for an original 6 team has a lot of attraction for players, but they look at our situation and where they might fit in. Have an opportunity to play on a line with Larkin and Bertuzzi, or play with one of the young D-men, or play in goal. They've done their homework. They kind of know our team. They know they would fit in, and I think there's somewhat of a optimistic vibe around our team, that we are up and coming. And I would say that's very cautiously, like we've got a lot of work to do. But it was encouraging that in speaking with the guys that they had some optimism and felt like that we are a bit of a team on the rise. So that was a bit of a selling feature to them. But again, I caution we got a lot of work to do. I'm hoping we're inching closer towards being a playoff contending team, but I still think I'm counting on our younger guys to get better, and I'm really hopeful that the veterans that have come in are going to push us a little forward and make us a little bit better.
When you're a team that is trying to get to that playoff contention, and obviously the end goal is a Stanley Cup, you have needs. You address some of those: a center, a right-handed shot, a couple of defensemen, somebody that's good at power plays. Like, what is the next need, and how do you address it moving forward?
Well, in the short term, the group that we have has to, kind of gel together and get cohesive. We have a lot of changes, new coaching staff. We will probably, coaching staff will implement the way he wants to play in all zones and all areas of the game. That's going to take a little bit of time for everybody to figure out where they fit and who they best play with. I think ultimately the goal is to build a team that can, is a team that you're expecting to be in the playoffs annually, that's going to push for a Stanley Cup at some point. We got a long way to go before we're there. So the next step for us, again, I think I look at just the overall statistics, regardless of wins and losses, the obvious statistics in goal, special teams play. We can improve in all those areas. Our record will get better, and we'll become a more competitive team moving towards being a playoff contender.
We're talking with the Red Wing general manager, Steve Yzerman, following a busy free agency and just a busy offseason in general. Steve, I'm trying to find the right way to ask this. I heard you yesterday say you've got new players, new coach. You want guys to show up to camp like they have something to prove, kind of like a sense of urgency. Is it fair to say that the same is for you, maybe an increased sense of urgency going into your fourth season?
Not really. I don't have an increased sense of urgency. Again, we're slowly moving. Last year, Seider comes in, Raymond comes in. There's two young guys. We're looking for Philip Zadina, even Philip Hronik to take on an increased role. Does Simon Edmondson make our team? Any of the, Elmer Soderblom, Jonathan Berggren, can they push for a spot on the team? For myself, it wasn't a active or, the moves weren't made out of desperation or urgency. It was really again, we've got roster spots to fill. We're trying to improve our team. In some cases, we did it on short-term contracts, and in others, Andrew Kopp, Billy Husso to 3 years, Ben Sherratt to 4, that we felt we were comfortable with the term and the dollar amount. So ultimately, we're continue to build. I'm going to remain on the same approach. It's just we saw an opportunity now with our cap space and roster needs to fill some of those holes. And for the first time, I guess, in 3 or 4 years, I chose to go with a little bit longer term, but that was going to be necessary to get these players.
You can't always foresee everything or everyone that might become available in free agency. I think one of the surprises for us is that the night before free agency opened up, Johnny Gaudreau became available. Did you explore the option of adding a player like Johnny Gaudreau to the roster?
No, not really. Obviously, we're following what's happening around the league and who might become free or not. But if you look at our lineup and our roster, we have a lot of wingers, a lot of left-hand shot wingers. So it wasn't he's an excellent hockey player, obviously, but it wasn't like a priority for us and tying up that much money in term. We have a lot of left shot wingers, different than him, obviously, but just wasn't really a priority for us at this time.
Can you give us an update on Dylan Larkin? There's been whispers about an extension. Just how would you characterize his level of importance to not only what you guys are doing now, but beyond?
Well, he's the captain of our team. I think Dylan, I don't know if he's 26 yet. Excellent person, excellent hockey player. It's our intention to keep him here. Hopefully his entire career would be ideal. He's a player that I think is going to be one of the leaders and will play an important role in us being a good team and a Stanley Cup contender one day. So, again, he's the captain. I expect him to be here and for a long time. And regarding his contract, we'll figure that out. We'll get done when it gets done. Yes.
I haven't had a chance to ask you about Derek Lalonde and your relationship with him, your experience with him. Last time we talked or we heard from you that, it's one of the things that you wanted to add, or the guys that you had added to your staffs previously was guys that you were familiar with. Obviously, you're familiar with Derek Lalonde and his time with you down in Tampa Bay. Give us a snapshot of your expectations of him heading into this season.
Well, I'll go back a little bit. As I was kind of leaving the Tampa organization, Derek was coming in. I had a little bit of familiarity with him that he was coaching in Toledo and Detroit's East Coast League farm team. So a lot of the people within the Red Wing organization had a relationship with Derek and spoke very highly of him. Obviously, I know a lot of the people down in Tampa. I was able to do a lot of background work and got extremely positive recommendations, reviews, reports on Derek, his style. So I like his background. I like his coaching background. He's kind of gone through every level and been a successful coach at every level. I think he's a combination of the ability to keep the culture or the locker room, the atmosphere positive, upbeat, a little bit loose, in a positive way, and then but also run a really strict, disciplined program as well. So I think his personality and his way of doing things will be really good for where our team is at now. I love the fact that he's been a part of a successful team, working with a top coach in John Cooper. That I'm sure he'd take a lot of the way John Cooper ran his program. He'll bring that to Detroit for us. So with our group, with our team, I expect I talk about defense and goals against and improved special teams. I expect him to focus on that. I know he will, and ultimately it's up to the players on the ice to do it, and the coach has to figure out a way to get the most out of the group that he has. And it's my job to give him the best possible team we can, and we'll continue to try and improve it for him. So I'm excited to work with him. He's a good man. He's a hard worker. He's smart. And I'm pretty confident that he'll do a real good job coaching this team.
Steve, we hadn't had a chance to talk to you since the draft. I'm sure you're aware of this. People like to read into everything you do, and when you made the pick so quickly, people get excited. When you say Marco Kasper has underrated skills, people think maybe you found yet another really exciting player. How would you compare your confidence in that pick to some of the other first-rounders that you've selected that have already had successful starts to their NHL careers?
Well, I think you're never 100% certain, apart from the occasional generational player of Sidney Crosby or Austin Matthews or Connor McDavid, and you look at him and you go, that guy's playing and he's going to be a great player. Most of the guys you think they have some tools to play. So in drafting Marco, we watched him a lot. He didn't put up huge numbers, but when I say a little bit of underrated skill, I think there's a perception that he gets by just on effort. But I think he's got really good hockey sense. I think he's a really good skater. I think he is really driven, and we watch him play. And in today's game, you see a lot of highlights on Twitter, on social media of guys doing all these really fancy things that we in our generation we never did. Things they do with the puck in the top corner and backhand toe drags and things like this. We just didn't do that. And Marco, when he plays, he doesn't necessarily do those things. He makes the right play. He's got the puck on a stick. He keeps it simple, and I think that's a very positive thing. So you're not going to see him on YouTube or Instagram doing but he can do some of that stuff. I just think he makes the right play, and he has an excellent shot. So when I say underrated skill, I think he's kind of the perception was, hey, he's just a worker, and we see him as a really good all-around player that has the skills to potentially be a top six forward to produce more offense. But we think conservatively, I think he's a very good top nine forward that will be a centerman that can play on the wing, which he did a lot this year playing in Rogala, Sweden.
He's Steve Yzerman, general manager of the Detroit Red Wings. Good catching up with you, Steve.
Anytime, guys. Have a great weekend. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Steve.
Too.